All right. So has everybody got their passports and are you dressed for the all the changes in weather we're going to have? Okay. So I'm Dave Peck and my wife Mira is with us and we have done a lot of traveling. In 1970, I went to Australia and toured around that continent and ended up uh, hooked up with Mira after that. And she is originally from Poland. I met her on the Great Barrier Reef in Queensland, Australia. And she is a chemical engineer and lawyer, and I'm a retired teacher and farm boy. And so we kind of hit it off and took a whole year hitchhiking from Australia to here. And now we have done several cruises, and this is one that we did in December of 2019 down to Antarctica. So here's some of the places we went. We started off in Fort Lauderdale and then stopped in a couple places in the Caribbean, St. Kitts and Martinique. Then went down around to Salvador, Brazil, uh, Rio de Janeiro, and then on down to Montevideo, Uruguay, and into Buenos Aires, where a lot of people got off the ship and new ones came on because this is a double cruise. And then from there to Falkland Islands and the Antarctic Peninsula. And what you have to remember on this whole trip is we're giving you a taste of everything. This is really a 3 hour presentation. We're going to pack it into 1 hour. And so we just give you a taste of everything. Um, Even in Antarctica, you got to realize that we see a lot of ice and snow, but it's just a very small sliver of Antarctica. And then we come up to the most southern points in Argentina and Chile, and back to Santiago and fly home. Now, when we left um, Albany, our flight was canceled, which was going to happen the next day. And it was snowing that evening. And you can take a look at this. This is the window of our seat with snow coming up on the airplane on the seat. And to the right, you see the machines de-icing the plane. We did get a flight that night, and it was the last flight out of Albany, and they had to de-ice the plane several times, and it was 2 hours delayed, and we thought it was going to be canceled, but finally the plane took off. And so we had our heavy clothes on, and suddenly we're in Florida, where it was warm and nice. And as Kathleen was saying, I like to do some biking when I get to places, and so I rented one of these city bikes right here. And one thing you want to be sure of when you rent a city bike is that it's got a good charge, because I didn't really check that carefully, and I got up over this overpass over here, and suddenly I ran out of juice. And it's much harder to pump a electric bike when it doesn't work than a regular bike. Anyway, I discovered things such as, did you know that their International Swimming Hall of Fame is right there? I didn't know that. So when you go for a little bike ride, you discover some good stuff. We departed on the Coral Princess on December 2nd, 2019. Now here's a picture of our room. I mussed up the bed a little bit so that people would think it's actually being lived in. And actually what happens is if you leave your room, somebody comes in and makes your bed like magic. We were on the 12th deck, which was called the Aloha deck. And just above us were some pools. This is a nice pool that was kind of enclosed, which was good for Antarctica, where it's going to be cold. And right after the first morning we were on the ship, we were told we were getting breakfast in our room, which was quite a nice little feature. However, on our little balcony, they had hardly had room to put all the materials for our breakfast, when actually we could have just gone up a couple of flights on the elevator to a buffet breakfast and had everything we want there too. So anyway, first stop was in St. Kitts. And this is the St. Kitts Garden and Plantation here. That was built by slaves. They have a huge garden there, and one of the unusual flowers is jump up and kiss me. I hadn't heard of that flower, but there are all kinds of flowers there: guava, oleander, moringa trees, and jambu fruits and cashews, and bougainvillea, mango, mahogany, tamarind, frangipani, breadfruit. We learned a little bit about the sugar trade, and the unfortunate, embarrassing part was that slaves were part of that trade. So sugar went to Europe, and then Europe sent some manufactured goods to Africa, and then from there they took slaves to the Caribbean and the Americas. Now here is St. Kitts looking south. On the left, here you see two oceans. On the left is the Atlantic Ocean, which is on the windward side. And on the right is Frigate Bay, St. Kitts, Caribbean, leeward side, where I did some snorkeling and kayaking. And Nevis is in the far distance. You can see Nevis right there. Now, I'm just listening to an audiobook by Cicely Tyson, and it turns out Cicely Tyson's parents grew up on Nevis, and so did, of course, Alexander Hamilton. To the right, if you look closely, after a while, you'll see a monkey. Well, there's lots of vervet monkeys from Africa that have spread out on St. Kitts, and that's just one of them. From there, we went to Martinique, also in the Caribbean. And as you see here, this is a picture from the destination explanation by Umberto. Umberto was very good about telling us about destinations every time we came to a port. And he would tell us all about it. And then he would conclude his remarks by saying, and it's absolutely unimportant. So you didn't know what to think. Here on the right is a snorkeling boat that I went to out across Brasseteer Bay in Martinique for a two-site snorkeling adventure. First, we went to a cave seawall where we learned about the marine life that is fertilized and grows from the guano from bats in the cave there. And also in the second place, we saw sea turtles and squid. Here's some of the kayak boats and in St. Kitts, and then to the right is snorkeling in the Bat Cave. And I have a little video that we can watch for a minute. We have to turn that up a little.
So this is how far we can get to the cave. So as you hear the squeaking sound, it's a form of communication. That's the way they communicate to each other, by squeaking. The orange that you see around the cave, it's called smoke flower coral. This orange there, it's the flowered coral that when you touch the flower, it goes in the coral. That's why it's called smoke flower coral. So I just want to pass on the other side. Well, this is like as close as we.
Okay, so that explains the little coral anemones that grow on the cave wall there from the production of the fertilizer from the guano. Now, while we were in Martinique, after doing that snorkeling and touring around the island, we took a little nap. And then I thought, let's go see the 1902 eruption museum at the base of Mount Pelly, where thousands of people died in an eruption back in 1902, but there was one survivor. So we ran out to the taxis. There was one taxi left with this guy here who looks like a Rastafarian. And he said, yeah, that'll be $180, just cash right now. And I said, well, no, that's a bit much. I'll offer you 30. And I guess we settled on $40. And he said, okay. And I said, you got to give us back in time to leave at 5:30. And he says, oh, no problem, man. Jump in. so we went riding out to the museum area on the other side of the island. And it turns out that the one survivor from that eruption was Louis Superis, who was imprisoned in a dungeon. And this is the dungeon right here down there. And they uncovered it and so on and got him out, and he survived. Now, on the way back, we were starting to sweat a little bit because it was getting close to 5:30, and the traffic was kind of heavy, and there was just one road. But we made it back here, and as you can see, Mira is walking back to the ship alone. You don't see any more passengers going back. So when we got back to the ship, we said, are we the last ones here? And they said, that's correct, and there's no prizes for that. So anyway, and a little further south now, heading toward South America, we crossed the equator. And when you cross the equator, there's a ceremony into the initiation of the court of King Neptune. It's called an equatorial baptism, and people get water and foam and everything else poured on them. They select the king and queen of the Neptune king. Anyway, that was kind of fun. During our trip, I like to meet people when we're traveling, and we met all kinds of people. On the left here, we have Kelly, who's originally from the Philippines, who married Andy, who's like 30 years older than her. And they're from California. They were fun. And the couple to the right are computer technicians and a physician from Miami, but they're originally from India. And just this morning, we got a call or an email from somebody in South Africa wanting to meet up with us when we visit there in January. And so it's just fun meeting so many different people who like to travel. Give you an idea here on the trip. So we came down through the Caribbean, stopping at those two islands, and then down around Brazil, past the exit of the what's the main river? The Amazon River. Anyway, so you got Salvador is where we stopped first, then Rio de Janeiro, then down to Uruguay, and so on. Now, in Salvador, it's kind of an unusual town, and they have a little bit of strife there. So there were a lot of military guys guarding the areas where tourists were wandering. And one thing you have to do is go up to it's like on two levels. So you got this level, and then to get up on the main level of Salvador, there's an elevator. And if you're a senior, they'll wave you by. Otherwise, you got to pay. And one of the things that happened here was that somebody was up here on the second level and died from the cruise ship. And I don't know if you know it, but these big cruise ships, they all have morgues. Because when you got 2,000, like there's 2,000 people on this cruise ship and 900 crew, and if you're on there for a month or something, very likely, and most people are seniors, that somebody's probably going to pass on. Anyway, one of them did in this case. From Salvador, we passed down to Rio de Janeiro, which means River of January. And on the left here is their amazing new science museum called Museu do Amanhã, which means Museum of Tomorrow, which is well worth touring. To the right here are a couple of the beaches that you've all heard about. The first one here is Copacabana, and the second one is Ipanema. And they both have different designs so that when you're wandering from one to the other and so on, you know where you are. When you're pulling with your cruise ship, the walls of the terminal have these amazing indigenous paintings of indigenous people from the rainforest. And as we did a panoramic tour of the city, I saw these cable cars. They're actually gondolas in the sky going from here over to here. And this is called Sugarloaf Mountain. And I said, that would be fun to do. So a little later on, you'll see from the view from up there. Anyway, back at the cruise ship, which was near that science museum, you can see we're just under the overhang of the science museum, and you've got the Mardi Gras stilt walkers. So Mardi Gras is a real big deal in Rio de Janeiro. And inside the museum, one of the more colorful exhibits is the Chiringa stick, which is this stick right here. And it's from the Aboriginals of Australia, those tribes. And what that stick represents is stories that the Aboriginals passed down, and somehow or other, they leave indications of what those stories are about on this stick. Now here I am. What I did was I rented a bike and I rode about 16 miles from the cruise ship terminal and found my way to where this cable, actually gondola, goes up to Sugarloaf Mountain. And so this is a view from the top of that mountain. You can see the Pacific, the Atlantic Ocean out here and some of the lakes that are in Rio de Janeiro. I really enjoyed Rio de Janeiro. One other thing I want to tell you about renting a bike here is that, first of all, it's probably going to be in Portuguese. So I happened to stop a guy on the street to help me negotiate renting the bike, who was a doctor. Even he had some trouble with it. And so I got a bike. When I got to the bike stand, you have to put your bike in a bike stand, lock it in the bike stand. When I got to the bike stand at the gondola, it was full. So I had to wait a little bit for somebody to take a bike out of there so that I could put mine in and lock it. Then I went up to the top. When I came back down, there were no bikes there for me to rent a bike to get back. So I had to wait a while until somebody brought a bike back. So you got to be willing to be a little bit flexible. Here we've gone down to Montevideo, Uruguay, and that's a pretty clean city. They're proud of their heritage, and the settlers that first settled there with these ox cart sculptures. And soccer is a huge sport in South America. And they really get upset when they lose if they thought they were supposed to win. And so I was told about stories of when they lost, a few people would commit suicide. They were so upset. Now we moved on to Buenos Aires. And in Buenos Aires, we did a panoramic tour of town. And about 50 miles out from Buenos Aires is the Tigre Delta and the Parana River.
Dave, excuse me, you've mentioned you've done panoramic tours.
Right.
Does that mean it's like a bus tour that just covers the whole city? Or what does panoramic tour really mean?
Panoramic tour means it takes you for a tour around the city. Sometimes there can be a special destination, so they will say, okay, we're going to be doing a big hike out here at such place, but we do a panoramic tour on the way and back. And so they explain
panoramic means on the bus.
Yeah.
That's what she's asking.
So it's usually on the bus. That's right. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. Go back to that one. Yeah. So it's just interesting to see how many people from Buenos Aires have these sort of vacation homes on stilts along the Tigre Delta.
Huh.
And it was raining and chilly when we were there, but interesting. However, after spending a whole day with the rain and cold, I ended up with a little bit of laryngitis. Was the only time that I ended up getting sick, but it took me a couple of days to get over so I could talk normally again. Anyway, after at Buenos Aires, about 1,300 of the 2,000 passengers finished the first cruise and departed there. So 1,300 passengers got on. And the tour, the cruise was fully booked both times. Outside of that, I said my health was good. Our new man at the helm, the previous captain was from Poland, and now we had a new captain, Todd McBade from Canada. And everybody loved both of these captains, especially the guy from Canada. He was super. Anyway, coming out of Buenos Aires, the new people were expecting to see Montevideo. However, if you know anything about the Beaufort wind scale, if it gets up to Beaufort 8, 9, or 10, you've got huge winds and waves, and that's what was happening as we come out of Montevideo Bay. And so the captain said, there's no way that we can get back into Montevideo, so we're going to skip that and go right on to the Falkland Islands. One thing about this cruise was that there were 3 or 4 excellent speakers, scientists, to give lectures. And here we have Mark Harris, who has done all kinds of adventures all over the world, and he gave a lecture on whales. I got a picture of here of a killer whale, but that's actually a dolphin. Killer whales are big dolphins, not whales. He did lectures on ecology and wildlife and things like that. Bob Headland, who I think he's over 80 years old, has a peak named after him in Antarctica. He showed some of the earliest filming of Antarctica, including film footage of Robert Falcon Scott, who died trying to get to the South Pole. He was actually the second person who got to the South Pole after Amundsen. And he was a mentor to Ernest Shackleton. And we saw a whole film about the tragic ending of Ernest Shackleton, who was down there stuck in the ice. And then the third guy was Christian Gunn, who did Antarctic geology and biology, especially talking about evolution and Charles Darwin's trip on the Beagle through the Terra del Fuego. Okay, just to give you an idea of some of the entertainment, here's just a little clip. Okay, so entertainment was every night. It's just so much fun to be able to go down to one of their theaters and just stop in for entertainment, no extra cost. As I said, sometimes it was a bit loud. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that, everybody.
That's okay.
So next stop was Falkland Islands. And on the Falkland Islands, they have all kinds of seabirds and wildlife. Here are some king penguins, which are the second largest type of penguin after the emperor penguin, which is bigger. Emperor penguins are found in the interior of Antarctica. King penguins are found also in Falklands in the area here. And here's some killer whales that you can, or orcas that you can see from the ship. On the Falkland Islands, again, we did one of those panoramic tours where we went by bus around the island and so on, and saw such things as the sperm whale skulls. Port Stanley is the main town in the Falklands. And we also learned about the military conflict there between England and Argentina. And this is a whalebone arch of a blue whale jaw bones. And all the different kinds of seabirds. I'm big on watching the birds. And so it's just interesting to see all these different birds, especially the albatrosses. There's like 23 species of albatrosses, and I think 3 of them occur in the Falklands. And they have huge wingspans and can fly for, you know, most of their life. Okay, here we are coming from Argentina and the Falkland Islands. And as you're getting closer to Antarctica, suddenly you're going to go across this Antarctic polar front. And the Antarctic polar front, once you cross that, it's going to get colder. So we went from the Falkland Islands across the front here, and this is the Antarctic Peninsula. Now, as I said, we're getting a taste of things on this trip, and we're just going to get a taste of Antarctica, because this is a huge Antarctica, and we're not even going to actually cross the Antarctic Circle, which is at about 66 degrees, south latitude. We'll get to about 65 degrees south latitude. And just for interest here, Shackleton, when he came down here trying to do the trans-Antarctic crossing, he went into the Weddell Sea and got stuck in here in the ice. Okay, he was going to come across here, and he had another group going to come across here and put supplies for him so that he could actually make it all the way across. Unfortunately, he got stuck in the ice and he never made it there. The other group that came down from over here in Australia, Tasmania, they were able to put those supplies in there, but they lost 3 men doing that. So it's a very dangerous area, and of course, very cold. Here's one of the timetables telling us where we would be at a certain time. And you can see we're after Falkland Islands, we're at sea for 1 day. Between Montevideo and Stanley, the Falkland Islands, we're at sea for 2 days. And then we come to Elephant Island, where Shackleton ended up on his survival expedition. Anyway, and then we go through that area of the peninsula and eventually get to the Cape Horn of South America and back up to Chile. Of course, you can study these maps. They're pretty complex after a while. But anyway, we came down this way to Elephant Island. Over in here is this Weddell Sea. And this is a very turbulent area called the Drake Passage, where a lot of water from the Pacific Ocean is flowing through to the Atlantic Ocean. And as it does, it turns water here in sort of a vortex, and it's called the Weddell Sea Gyre. And so what happened to Shackleton and his crew was he got down in here and got into ice. He was hoping to get on land here, but what happened, his boat got stuck in that ice for over a year. And as it was stuck in the ice, even though it was stuck, the boat still moved in a clockwise direction around this way. And so even after the boat got crushed and everything, they were able to get out of the boat and get onto a little boat they had with them, 3 of them, and make it up to this Elephant Island here and survival from that area. So we came in here, and as you'll notice, there's an Antarctic Sound right there. The captain was hoping to go through this sound and show us a little bit of the Weddell Sea, but there was so much ice coming out of there when we were there that we couldn't get in there. Here's a little bit about Shackleton's failed trans-Antarctic expedition. He hoped to be the first to cross Antarctica over land and so on. Here it says that Amundsen was first to reach the pole in 1911, December, and Scott followed in 1912. Unhappy that he was not the first, but on his way back, he ended up starving to death and freezing to death because of bad weather and so on. Okay, well, here's a little bit. Oh, and by the way, the photographer who took some of these shots, which will be animated too, was Frank Hurley from Australia. On board that boat were 28 men and 69 dogs, several pigs, and a cat. So here's a little bit about the breakup of the Endurance, which was Shackleton's ship. They're trying to free the ship. They're down in Antarctica. Nobody knows exactly where they are. And they can't communicate with anybody. Of course, the people on the other side of Antarctica that are hoping to see them come over there don't know what's happening. Of course, these parts are animated, but then it's mixed with real footage. Here they're taking the dogs off the ship.
Do you know why they had so many dogs?
Yeah, they used dog sleds, and of course, when food got short, they ate the dogs. So the Endurance sank, and that was the end of their ship. Now, this gives you a little idea of their route. They came from England, of course, down to South Georgia. And then from there, they came on their ship down here, where they were going to get on land and go across Antarctica. So they're in the Weddell Sea here. They got stuck in the ice, and they couldn't go any further. And this sea gyre caused them to go over here, where they could then get into open water eventually and go to Elephant Island, and then go on a little mission of survival, 750 miles in the Antarctic with a small boat with 6 guys. 22 guys waited at Elephant Island, never knowing whether anybody would ever come back for them. This is Elephant Island, where there are elephant seals, and he and his crew took refuge here in 1916. Shackleton and 27 men set off on the Endurance in 1914 for the Weddell Sea, but they got stuck in the ice. Months later, they abandoned the ship where it sank, and then they made it up here. They landed here, and they couldn't get up on the shore, so they had to take their little boats and go around here. And this is called Point Wild. One of the guys on the boat was named Wild. Shackleton's crew landed here after over a year stuck on the ice. Shackleton, once he got back to Georgia, South Georgia, he was able to get a Chilean guy with a Navy cutter to go back down here and get these 22 men who were left there for 4 months, not knowing whether they would have survived or not. Anyway, there's a little statue to that Chilean guy and some chinstrack penguins at its base. Of course, while you were witnessing all the struggles of Shackleton and so on board the ship, we were struggling a lot with all the entertainment. And one of the interesting things about all the lectures, before every lecture, they would have a film about the importance of conservation in the Antarctic. So here's a little sample from one.
Untouched and undisturbed, special guidelines exist to ensure it continues to be a constant source of wonder and inspiration. Antarctica is the last great wilderness on Earth, governed by an international treaty that has dedicated the continent a natural reserve for peace and science. The goal of all who visit its breathtaking snowy scenes is to ensure its continued protection. Ensuring all food or personal items are secured on deck is very important with Antarctica's strong winds. Decomposition is slow in cold climates, and animals can easily be killed or caught in litter. All Antarctic species are protected. Disturbing any and all wildlife is strictly prohibited. Because of this, extreme care must be taken if seabirds or marine mammals are close to the vessel. Do not touch or feed them. These creatures show little fear of humans. Acting responsibly allows visitors to maximize their experience without disturbing wildlife. While Antarctica's harsh environment may suit its many creatures, the conditions are inhospitable and unpredictable for us. An experienced captain and crew ensure your safety and careful navigation. Remember to listen carefully to all announcements and briefings. Dressing warmly and appropriately, taking extra precaution at all times, and heeding your guide's advice about the best locations on ship will ensure you have the most rewarding experience aboard your vessel. A fully sheltered deck is the perfect place to safely take photographs of your adventure without disturbing any wildlife. Remember to stop often and reflect on the beauty around you. Respecting and appreciating your surroundings is the easiest way to ensure this experience lasts for all those who come after you. On behalf of Antarctica and IARTO, we thank you for taking the time to watch the visitor guidelines and hope you enjoy your journey.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Mark. I'm your naturalist. And thank you. Today we're talking about sharks, magnificent.
Okay.
Largely untouched and undisturbed.
Okay. So anyway, those are always interesting lectures once you got by the little announcement at the beginning like that. One of the birds that I enjoyed most were the Cape petrels, Antarctic Cape petrels, and you can see them flying along the side of the ship, kind of escorting the ship. Here's a close-up of one flying and one with a little baby, and they fly just far and wide. Icebergs often had groups of penguins aboard, so you see this is one of the first big icebergs we saw. There were always two people. We wondered how they were avoiding hitting the icebergs, and they had a iceberg specialist on board who was always up on top of the ship watching. He and one other person were always watching for big icebergs that we didn't want to crash into. Here's an example of glacier. Now, one thing Mira was going to tell us a little bit about the Antarctic area after we went by the. Yeah, okay. So Mira will tell you a little bit about Antarctica now from the details she's discovered.
So just to give you an overview about Antarctica itself, it's 5.5 million square miles wide, or the area is 5.5 million square miles. That's just a little bit smaller than the area of Russia, and about half the size of Africa, and bigger than the United States and bigger than Australia. There are a number of countries that have official claims. Australia has the biggest official claim. So Australia's area of the continent of Australia is 3 million square miles, and it has a claim in Antarctica of 2.3 million miles. The other claimants are Norway, UK, Argentina, Chile, New Zealand, and France. 90% of the world's ice is contained in Antarctica. If all of it melted, the sea level would rise 200 feet and probably drown most of the coastal cities. It also contains 70% of the world's water. Approximately 98% of Antarctica is covered by ice, some of it only a few feet deep, but there are also deeper areas as deep as 1 or 2 miles thick of ice. There are some peaks in Antarctica. The highest is Vinson Massif, which is 16,000 feet high. There's also Mount Erebus, which is on Ross Island, and it's an active volcano. The lowest temperature on Earth was recorded in Antarctica, and it was minus 89 degrees centigrade, which is the same as 129 degrees Fahrenheit. As far as the population goes, that is mostly people who are in the scientific research stations and physicians, and it varies between 1,000 people and 5,000 people, depending on the season. They represent 30 countries, and there are something like 60 research stations in Antarctica. Antarctica is subject to a couple of treaties. One is a 1959 Antarctic Treaty System, which set aside Antarctica as a scientific preserve, and it established freedom of scientific investigation and environmental protection, and it also prohibited military activity. And there's also the 1998 Madrid Protocol, which bans mining. Now, because of the huge area of Antarctica, you can imagine that it's difficult to enforce all these rules. And in fact, some countries have military presence there. These treaties are up for discussion in 2048, and depending on the kind of economy we have by then, if we're still dependent on oil, Antarctica has the largest oil deposits of any place on Earth. So it would be quite tempting to violate all these rules and start oil exploration there. I'll talk about something else later, but
okay,
that's all for now.
Excellent. Okay. Now, this is a big tabular type of iceberg, and you can see that it's, oops, where's our thing here? Okay. You can see that it's calved and some of the pieces are swirling around the water. Okay. That's it. Let's see. I'll put that down like that. Okay. Anyway, so just some beautiful scenery. Of course, it's cold, but we're there during the South American, Southern Hemisphere summer. So it was not that terrible. And viewing was quite good. Most of the area around the top has glass walls so that you can see through and see the scenery. And of course, there are a lot of whales. Here in this case, you got humpback whales spouting. And when they dive, you see their flukes come up. So here's the path that we did. From Elephant Island, where we saw Cape Wild, where Shackleton made his last attempt to get back to South Georgia. We came down here, tried to get through the Antarctic Sound, but there was too much ice coming out from the Weddell Sea Gyre. And then we went over to King George Island, which is and Admiralty Bay. This is all part of South Shetland Islands. Now, in King George Island, there is a research station there that's called Arctowski, which Mira knows a little about because, you know, they're from Poland and Mira is originally from Poland. So she has some more information about Arctowski Research Station.
And let me just say, we do have about 8 more minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So
quick.
talk fast.
I'll talk fast. So this research station was established in 1977 under the auspices of the Polish Academy of Sciences. The man after whom it's named was a meteorologist and oceanographer, and he joined the Belgian expedition of Adrian de Gerlach. And if you look at the map of Antarctica and Greenland, there are quite a few sites that are named after Gerlach. This was the first expedition that wintered in Antarctica, not by choice, but because they got stuck in ice. The crew included some famous explorers, including Roald Amundsen, who was a naval officer from Norway, and this Henryk Arctowski from Poland, and Frederick Cook, who was a surgeon and anthropologist from the United States. And Arctowski is the one who proposed the notion of a wind chill factor being as dangerous as low temperatures themselves. So the research fields in Antarctica include geology, plate tectonics, meteorology, magnetism, astronomy, and the physicians study the spreading of viruses and the body's response to low temperatures. The Polish research station studies marine biology and various other areas. And also one interesting thing is that it's undergoing, it's in the process of building a new building, which is depicted here. And if you want to find out more about the architecture of a building like this, which takes into account the very low temperatures and the winds and the snow and so forth, there was a recent film, 2019 film, titled Where'd You Go, Bernadette? And Kate Blanchett plays a renowned architect who designs a research station like this, and it shows really terrific graphics of how it's built and what people do there.
Yeah, that's a terrific film. Where'd You Go, Bernadette? Yeah. See it if you haven't ever seen it. Okay, so so this was like our best cruise yet. Now going back across the Drake Passage to Chile was actually not as bad as predicted. However, you still get gale force winds and severe temperature situations. But we made it through. A lot of people did get sick, but we didn't. You can see a little bit about that. And here, of course, you so again, more entertainment. And then we reached Ushuaia in the southernmost point in Argentinian Patagonia. There's our ship over there. And here I did another strenuous hike with a bunch of people who were younger than I am, but I was able to keep up pretty well. These two are twins from Massachusetts. And
Hey, Dave, your voice has faded away.
Oh, my voice faded away. Okay, let me see what's going on here. Can you hear me now?
Well, it's still distant.
Okay, I don't know why that is. Let's see. But can you hear me?
Well, keep going. Just it's hard to hear. Well. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why that would be. Anyway, okay, this is the Beagle Channel in Terra del Fuego, and about 1,800 miles remain at sea to reach San Antonio and Chile Santiago, Chile, where we'll fly back home. We celebrated New Year's on December 31st, 2019 into 2020. We stopped at Punta Arenas and toured around that town. That's the southernmost town in Chile. There was a lot of graffiti everywhere. This is and the reason for that was they're having some kind of a pension argument with the government. People were upset. And if you touch, this is Magellan, statue of Magellan. And if you touch his toe, it's supposed to be good luck and means that you will come back again someday. Okay. Sunset over the southern Pacific with a whale spouting out there in the distance. And here's Santiago Airport with the Chilean flag and flying out. And one thing that happened to us on this cruise was there was a crooner on board who was just very good at leading sing-alongs. And so we talked to him and we got him to come to our 49th wedding anniversary up here in upstate New York, because he's from Manhattan and was able to do that because of COVID. We had to delay it from May to August, and we still had social distancing and so on. And now this year, during our 50th wedding anniversary, he's available on our actual wedding date, May 15th. So we got him coming again. Anybody who wants to see all about cruising on the Coral Princess can go to this website right here, and they'll take you through the whole ship and tell you all about cruising on that ship. So we hope you enjoy that. Whoops, I won't go through that right now.
You know, let's try ending your screen share, and we'll do that. Might help your voice.
Okay. All right. Let's see here.
Because I know we have some questions.
Okay. Let's see here. How do I end this? Oh, here it stops here. Okay. Good.
Okay, so that did not help your voice.
Strange. Where's our microphone? Is the microphone in this little camera?
Well.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Or?
Well, no. There's a button above with the speaker sound and the plus symbol above your numbers.
Above numbers. What numbers? Okay, let's see. Up over here, meeting information. Let's see. Recording. Okay, you're recording it. Now let's see. Pause.
Oh, you're getting louder?
I am getting louder.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. That's good.
I don't know what I did.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, good.
Okay. So here's one question. What effect has climate change done to Antarctica?
Okay, well, obviously the water level is rising a little bit. You know, all over, animals are migrating earlier because of warming temperatures. And there are glaciers that are disappearing. Like on Elephant Island, there used to be 3 glaciers or something. Now there are 2. But I don't have a whole lot of information on that.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, Mary said they also had very high seas coming out of Montevideo and lost today and missed the Falklands.
Oh, missed the Falklands. Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, they had windows right out. They had waves right out the window of their dining room on the 8th level.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I know sometimes people get stuck in the Falkland Islands because you go into like a inlet and then if the weather gets bad, people can be stuck there, or the ship would have to leave in a hurry, and people get left on the island because of bad weather there.
Okay, well, does anybody, it is after 8. If anybody wants to stay and ask some questions, but before we do, is there a consensus at all about doing our program on Easter Sunday, or should we postpone the Croatia program till the next week?
Tell me when I
Any-
go.
I'm sorry?
Oh, there's Elaine.
Yeah.
I
Push
would
this
vote
back.
for postponing it.
You
Please.
can't. You're
That
losing.
man's asking a question.
Okay, so,
I would say, why don't you take a survey? I would say no.
okay. Everybody, there's a hand. You know how to raise a hand? Why don't you raise a hand if you want it postponed? You can just raise your own hand. Postpone, okay. Okay. Okay, well,
You know nothing about
okay, I guess I'm gonna have to make the decision.
We're fine with having the meeting.
Either way is fine with
Either
us.
way is fine with us.
Okay.
I changed mine. It's okay for Easter for Charlene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
what issues is.
I'd like to see it yet. I'd have to just do it later then. I don't know if I'd be available, but I can go on your blog.
Well, because California is earlier in the day.
Right.
So I understand that. Well, you know what, Mary and I will talk about it since it's her program and see what we're going to do. So be sure and open. I'll send an email no matter what. So just be sure and open your email to see if we're going to have it or not. Mary, do you have something to say?
Yeah, we talked about having it in 2 parts as well. So what I'd like to do is do the coast first of Split and the Dalmatian coast and Dubrovnik 1 week, and then the next week do Zagreb and the mountains and Plivice lakes, the inland part.
Okay,
I got lots of pictures.
great, great. Okay.
I kind of
All
wish
right.
today's was a 2-parter because I really enjoyed this one very much. And I know they rushed through some of it. And I wish that this was made into a 2-part presentation on their cruise to Antarctica.
I agree. I agree.
That was
So much. I hate for it to be so rushed that we don't have time to talk about it.
Yeah.
good, David. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, Elaine. Glad you-
Okay. I want you to hear this. Don't forget your wife has a birthday on Wednesday. Happy birthday, Mira.
Thank you.
And we'll turn your-
It's a big one.
Coming up on May 15th.
What?
That's right. Our anniversary's
Oh,
coming
wait,
up.
there's mute.
That's right.
Well, and Mira, thank you for all of your additional facts. They were very interesting.
Mhm.
And I have to say, I did not know orcas were from the dolphin family. I had
didn't
no
either.
idea.
I didn't
Yeah.
either, yeah.
I would still like to know, Dave, how you got that breakfast furnished by the Polish captain.
Oh, I don't know. I guess it's just we paid for the trip, and so if we paid for it, I guess we got that. I don't know. There was a variety of things that they could do for you as sort of a bonus. So we said, okay, we'll take that one.
Okay. Well,
The wife was Polish.
Maybe that was it. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Well, among other things, it's the symbol for infinity. I don't need to talk about infinity. I've never seen this recently.
yeah.
So somebody wondered how cold it was. It was pretty mild a good share of the time, but it did get down below freezing, of course, in Antarctica, especially at night. And once you got past the what was that called? The Antarctic front. The pool, outside pool, of course, would be closed. And a lot of times when it was open in the ocean, the water would be slashing around so much that you could hardly stay in the pool. And of course, like I said, I like to do a lot of exercise. So right on board the ship, they have a big exercise room with a view of everything. So you can sort of feel like you're powering the ship as you ride your stationary bicycle.
That's great.
For you, do you ever consider, or did you ever consider taking your own bicycle on the Princess, making special arrangements for that?
I have run into a couple people that have, and I would consider that in the future, because oftentimes when you get to a port, now I don't know whether you can take your own bike off at the port or not, but that would be terrific if you could.
My wife and I have made arrangements on Princess and a couple of the cruise ships to be able to do just that. So we've taken 2 bicycles with us.
Okay. And so when they had a stop in port, you could get your bikes off?
That's exactly right. We had to keep them in our own cabin. They didn't make special arrangements for storage.
Okay.
And we said, that's not a problem. And ours are fold-up bicycles.
Oh,
We were able to fold them when they were in our cabin. And then when we got to a port, we had a plan of where we wanted to go. We had our helmets and our bicycle gloves and our chains, so we could chain them up. So we know that they would be there when we got back. And so we would go to where we wanted to go. And if we wanted to leave them, we'd chain them up and walk where we wanted to go.
that's excellent. Excellent. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because we're going to be going on an Antarctic cruise the same time of year that you went. Are there several excursions, ship excursions, or can you see mostly everything by staying on the ship?
Oh, no, you need to get off the ship. Yeah, so there's a lot of different excursions that you can sign up for in advance. And of course, they run from $50 to several hundred. One of our friends that we got to know was a guy from Taiwan, he and his wife. He was actually an architect that built the huge Taiwan aquarium. Anyway, he booked a flight to Iguazu Falls.
Oh, Iguazu.
On the border of Brazil and Argentina. So he went and did that for 2 days and then came back to the ship before it left Buenos Aires. And the beauty of knowing them was that while we were doing our viewing and so on, he was photographing those falls and showed us all about it, so we didn't have to do it.
I'm talking about when you were actually in the Antarctic area, not in South America, but the Antarctic area. Were there several excursions there, or could you see everything from the ship?
From the ship, yes.
There are no excursions. You're not allowed to get off the ship.
Oh, okay, okay.
And you saw that we made a record, right? That was the longest ship ever in Antarctica. Princess had stopped their cruises for about 10 years to Antarctica, and they started up again with this Coral Princess, the longest ship that ever went down there.
Oh, wow. We're doing Holland America.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's another good cruise ship. We've done a couple of those to
Right.
Alaska and so on.
Yeah.
I have a question. How do you guys feel now after COVID taking cruises? It doesn't bother you?
We were lucky. I felt good that we weren't on one of those cruise ships that was locked down. But I mean, we came home in early January, and we had another excursion travel plan to do a snowbird tour from New York State down to Florida and Alabama. And we did that at the end of middle of February into the beginning of March. And by the time we were coming back up through Tennessee and everything, things were really closing up, and you had to eat out at restaurants, take out and stuff like that. So we came home a couple of days early, but we felt kind of good also to get all this in before the lockdown.
Mhm.
I'm thinking, Charlene, that maybe starting in June, they'll make you have the vaccines or something. And if everybody has the vaccines, you're quite a bit safer, I would say.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah,
I've been vaccinated already.
I think
So,
probably most of us have been.
yeah, yeah. Now, is there going to be a little, are you going to put something on our website, whether you've been vaccinated or not? So when you're looking for places to stay, say within the next year, that you'll know without
Charlene,
asking?
That's a good question. And we've been talking about it, but I think that that's something that needs to just be discussed when you're going to stay somewhere.
I agree.
You can ask.
I agree.
I don't really want to make it on the forms.
Sure.
I mean, because, this is going to pass and something else will come up. And,
Sure.
what I don't know is, have we changed forever as far as, when things happen? I don't know how the reaction is going to be across the world now. But I think that we need to leave it between members and not, discussions between members and not, people currently have a red X or a green check for whether they'll host or not, and at a point I will remove all of those. And it'll be in the newsletter and things. And again, I can't tell you when that's going to be. We're just sort of paying attention to the news and listening and things. So,
yeah. I've had a few people, because I'm in both clubs, and I've had some people ask. I haven't been home to host, but I have stayed with a travel member in the other club. They might be in Evergreen also. A lot of people are in both.
Yeah.
And I felt very comfortable. They did ask me, they said, have you been well, I think I offered it up. I said, I've been vaccinated. I'm en route to Oregon. I just wanted a place to stay. I won't shower. I won't do anything if you just let me sleep in a bed and and go. And they said, well, we've both been vaccinated also. I had a lovely time. It was the first time I've eaten a meal with someone else in a year. It felt good. So now I'm ready to go.
Oh, great.
Well, in a week from now, I'll be hosting 2 different couples. First week.
Wow.
Oh.
And actually we're hosting another couple like the first week of April. After Easter.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's
I'm ready to host.
There's a lot of travel. And actually I'm going to stay with an Evergreen member Tuesday night on my way back to Texas. You on your way, Carol? Thanks. So Billy and Lanny just did your travels and got home. And
yes, we traveled to Florida, stayed 4 weeks, and then traveled back across Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana.
Oh, my favorites.
And got back, stayed at Waxahachie. I know you invited us to stay with you, but we stayed at Waxahachie with my aunt.
Great.
And, made it home.
Great.
But we hosted guests last week. This week, we'll take anybody that wants to come see us.
I'm going to come see you one day. I know the way now.
Yeah. Oh, well, Dave and Mira, thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation. And may I say that if anybody has other questions, may they email you and get some more information?
Sure, that'll be fine. I noticed somebody asked what was our favorite place. All places that we go to almost are part of our favorites, you know.
Oh,
I really enjoyed Rio de Janeiro, but I mean, the Antarctica is spectacular and awesome. It's hard to beat.
How long was your cruise?
So it's 34 days.
4 days.
Wow.
34 days. And what's amazing is that you run into people on these cruises that maybe have done 80 cruises.
Oh,
They
And
live on the cruise ship.
there are people that just about live on cruise boats now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some do. They actually do. They have their own place and they just stay on them.
Yeah. It's
Can
incredible.
you imagine doing 80 cruises?
no.
Well,
Wow.
they add up. Let's say you do 2 cruises a year. Once you're over 40, you know, you're gonna
Yeah.
by the time you're 80, you're gonna have done 80 cruises right there.
Yeah, that's true.
Cruises have you done? Or the people that are still on, I'd like to know how many cruises people have done.
How many have we done? 20.
20, yeah.
Wow.
That included river cruises
Yeah.
over in Europe.
Okay.
Yeah.
200 days.
0. I've done 3. I've done 3.
Somebody said
Yeah.
they did 200 days. What'd they say?
Yeah, 225 days.
For one cruise?
No,
The total.
20 cruises.
Oh, that's
20
total
cruises.
cruising time. Okay, yeah. We've probably done 10 or 11 cruises, something like that.
Mhm.
Lorna, when are
Yeah.
you taking your Antarctica cruise? When? What?
We start on December 15th and we come back on January 8th, I think, or 7th. Yeah,
Of this year?
of this year, right. Yeah. I'm wondering what type of wet clothes to pack.
Warm.
Warm,
You need everything.
both, huh?
Variety.
Shorts and winter coats, I suppose.
True, too.
Well, now where do you live? Because when we get home,
New
Yeah.
Orleans,
what?
New Orleans.
Oh, New Orleans. See, so you want some reasonably warm clothes, but when you're down there, if you get cold, you're out on the deck or something, you can just step inside. See,
Or
when we
put a
get-
blanket around you.
when we get done, and we come back home, we're going to be faced with sub-zero weather, see, in February or.
Oh, okay, yeah. But the rest of the time, it's pretty warm when you're doing South America.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was warm in Buenos Aires and Montevideo, and then it got colder the farther south you went.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I took a rain jacket that was lined with a kind of a fleecy lining and a hood.
Oh,
That was great. It was just perfect. And you could, layer or put sweaters on under it if you get really cold.
One thing
Yeah.
you want to make sure when you're on these cruises, that
Antarctica, though, we went to Ushuaia, was the farthest south we went, in Patagonia. But it was interesting because when I got up in the morning, the 2 days we were at the Cape Horn and Ushuaia, I looked at my cell phone and my little GPS was at Antarctica. It wasn't where we were. I don't know why. I've never had that happen before. But I said, look, we're in Antarctica. We weren't.
huh.
one
Funny.
thing you want to be aware of when you're cruising is you want to make sure you eat enough because when you get on this cruise ship, you're human.
Problem?
When you leave, you're actually going to get off as cargo.
You're funny.
Well,
Billy, I have
when
a
we,
question for you. Are you planning on taking an Antarctica cruise?
Me?
That's a question for Billy. Are you planning on taking an Antarctica cruise?
well, this was certainly a thought-provoking presentation. That's why we pulled up that deal on the one leading out of Los Angeles in December. It's just something to look at.
That's December of 2021, correct?
That is correct.
So hopefully by then, ships will be sailing and we have forgotten all about COVID.
Yeah.
Well, we won't forget it for sure.
Yeah.
But I was going to make a comment. Whenever we went across the equator, we crossed water for 2 days that was 92 degrees.
Mm,
And so the boat had to slow down to 15 knots as not to overheat the diesel engine. So however you dress appropriately for that, I can tell you that it was hot.
Oh, hot.
Interesting.
Question for
Yeah,
you.
we're not doing
Did
that.
you
We're flying across the
overnight
equator.
in any of the ports? Or was it just from morning to evening? Did you have an overnight stay in any of the ports?
yes, yes.
It's ours, yeah.
I forget which port we had overnight. We were overnight at Rio de Janeiro. Got back on the boat and then back off the next day. So yeah, we had plenty of time in Rio de Janeiro. But yeah, very comfortable. What else is it?
In Antarctica, we were over, 5 nights. We were just sleeping,
Yeah, and you're
Well,
on
we
the ship.
take seasick pills. If you have bad weather, there are a lot of seasick people when we had that bad Atlantic storm.
What's a good thing to take?
I don't know, I didn't get sick, but a lot of it. Well,
Lorna, did you see the one of our early shows was on travel gadgets?
No.
I don't think that's posted yet. I will try to find it because there were a lot of people that brought things for cruising, gadgets that helped them with the cruising.
Yeah.
Things that just, I mean, the one I remember was, if it's a newer one, apparently the walls and ceilings are metal. And so they brought all those like refrigerator magnets with little hooks on them or clips.
Oh, okay.
And that you could organize your schedule with these magnets. And so everything was off of surfaces, but you could move things around and keep them organized and have your tickets for something just right there. So
yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah.
I'd like to see that if you have it.
yeah, I'll I will go through the archives.
Okay, okay. That would
Yeah.
be super. Yeah.
Take some books with you. Now,
Libraries too on ships.
yes, and I'm just going to say that one thing I didn't say about Mira is she's an author. So if you go on to Mira Peck Amazon Books, you'll see some of the books
She's
she's
an
written
author.
about one of them is entitled My Parents' Triumph Over Siberia, Kyrgyzia, the Holocaust, because her father Jewish and so on came from Poland. Yeah, and I've written a memoir, but that would be more for families.
Interesting.
Interesting, yeah. Huh.
Is there I've only cruised 3 times and they've just been little local cruises for me off of California. But I know some people say that you can get really good deals on cruises. Is there a special way of doing that, or is it just from frequently cruising?
Like vacations to go, and they'll have a section that says, if they're coming up soon and they're not filled like within 2 or 3 weeks, if you can do last minute cruises, they usually discount them a lot. There's
a website that's called Last Minute Cruises.
Yeah.
Okay.
And cruises only.
And
just
travel.
Google cheap cruises or something.
Okay, and those are reliable?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Travel Zoo has one, but even after we find a deal, we still go through our travel agent, and she usually matches what we find, and she's great to work with because she has all the contacts with the cruise and air industry, and she works out lots of kinks for us.
Oh, well, I'll get with you to find out. Maybe she could be the one I could work with too, because it doesn't matter where they are. Also, what do you guys do for health insurance? I'm on Medicare now, and I don't, and I have a very good supplement,
What's it
but
called? Sapphire. What?
Reserve, Sapphire Reserve.
Oh, we have, our credit card is,
Sapphire Reserve.
Sapphire Reserve.
Chase.
Chase
Chase.
Sapphire Reserve. Now you have to pay for that, but then they credit you so much with your, travel, but they cover you really, that's a really good insurance.
is it? Okay.
Chase Sapphire
Travel
Reserve.
insurance that will airlift you out or get you out of the country if you need to come home.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, you want that kind of travel insurance.
Right.
And then
Mhm.
but you can shop around for travel insurance
It
too.
covers a lot. It really does.
And don't the cruise lines offer travel insurance?
They do, but it's expensive.
They're usually pricier than anything you can get. Shop around. There are a lot of them that do that. There's some, if you travel all the time, that you can get one like covers you for a year, and it's for all the travel you do.
That's what
Oh,
Chase
really?
Sapphire Reserve does, covers you for everything.
Sapphire Reserve, and it's through Chase.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to check into that because I think I'm so tired of being pinned down this year that I'm ready to just roam.
Charlene, you're going to need a Evergreen person to come in and pet sit Ollie.
That's right. You know, I left Ollie at home. I'm up in Oregon. I left this week, and I had to get a neighbor who I gave starter to come over and feed poor Ollie. He's been abandoned. He would die if I didn't.
So Ollie is the sourdough bread starter. If you haven't been on regularly to know that.
Oh, that's funny.
I know. I forgot him. I realized halfway up here. I go, I left Ollie at home, and I wanted to bake while I was up here because I always bake for my neighbors and the workers and stuff around here, but not this time. So, anyway.
Where are you, Charlene?
I'm in Oregon. I went in with my brother and we bought a little place up here. It has a fantastic view. It's really nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So
Where?
Depot Bay, Oregon. It's on the Central Coast. It's about 50 miles north of Florence. Between Newport and Lincoln City. If you're familiar with those two cities, yeah, it's really nice.
Oregon is a beautiful.
Almost all the Oregon coast.
Pardon?
I said I've been on most of the Oregon coast. It's north of Florence. I know where you're talking about.
Yes, it's
Charlene,
absolutely. Yes.
will you be hosting people in Oregon too?
Probably not, because I'm only just a part owner in it. And I might, it depends. I might, if I'm up here at the time. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Contact me.
I'm in San Diego, and I don't think I know how to get to Fresno, but I think I do know how to get to the coast of Oregon.
Stay on 101. We're right off of 101.
I've been to Fresno many times, but
Yeah, I know. Fresno. It's a nice place to come from.
But
Our very first dog sitting was in Florence, Oregon for a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
You know, we do have someone, if you look on the classified ads, we have someone in North Carolina that would like a pet sitter from like June to September.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
And so go look.
I love
Wow,
North
Charlene,
Carolina.
maybe we can share that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why would you want to be in the South in the winter, summer, when you could be in Oregon coast in the summer?
I know.
Well, it's cooler than
Because-
New Orleans, I'll tell you that.
Well, apparently you do need to cross a creek and they're on like 20 acres. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
who realized that Fresno in the summer can get up above 100 degrees?
Oh,
So
many days many days. That's why we bought it. My brother lives in Palm Springs, and they just left this morning actually, and they got home and they said it's hot there, and it was hailing here just a little bit ago. So
We have
They're
our
ready
air
to come back.
conditioning on here in New Orleans. We have our air on.
That's huge.
wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow.
We do have the windows open in Dallas, which is
Really?
really nice.
Yeah.
It's here
We're
like that.
I just
going.
can't
Goodbye,
wait to go.
everybody.
Okay, bye-bye. I'm leaving
Great.
too. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
joining.
Same here.
I have one other.
Dave, thanks, Mira.
Okay,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. Have a great week.
Thank you, Dave.
I'll give you a call and we can talk about doing the program on Easter or not and see how you're really leaning because
I don't care.
you don't care. Okay. Okay, David?
I have one other quick comment for Dave. Again, my bicycles are fold-up bicycles. We've had very little problems with getting them on the ship. However, we do contact the cruise line and make them aware that we're going to be bringing bicycles, ask if we need to do anything special. With one cruise line, we had to go through their, what do they call it? Special department that approves the scooters on cruise ships.
Okay.
And get approval through them. But some cruise lines, they say, no, that's no problem whatsoever. So you just have to be careful which cruise line you're going to be going on.
Are these little low slung fold-ups?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, they're good. I've ridden them before.
Yeah. And we can go as far as we usually want to go. And so we've taken them on several cruises and even flown with them too. They fit into a suitcase that would be about the largest one that you can get on an airplane. They weigh with the suitcase just under 50 pounds. So we can fly with them. My wife has one, I have one. Actually, the first ones we had were day-on bikes, and then we got a little bit larger. They're 20-inch wheels, and we got some what are called citizen bikes just off the internet. And so I would recommend, if you like to bike, we've had people ask on every cruise when they see, oh, what our bicycles, they'll say to us, what a great idea. Boy, I wish I had thought of that. And we have conversations with a lot of people. And yeah, we've gone up to Canada and we bicycled on our own bikes completely around Stanley Park up in Vancouver. And took us 4 hours, but we weren't pressing it a whole lot either. We were stopping, taking pictures and things like that. So
I did that as a part of an Alaska cruise one time.
yeah, we were going to Alaska, and so we stopped in Vancouver. My wife had asked me what I'd like to do for my birthday, and she asked about in February. And I said, I would like to ride my bicycle completely around Stanley Park, thinking that that's probably never going to happen. Well, it's interesting when I happen to mention something like that to my wife, because she found a cruise leaving from Los Angeles and goes up the coast of California, arrived in Vancouver about 6 a.m. as ships do on my birthday.
Fantastic.
And so she told me about it. We booked that cruise. But she said, I wonder where the cruise goes before that. And she found out that that same cruise ship left LA and did a 28-day cruise to Hawaii and the South Pacific, returning back to LA, and then leaves from LA to go on the Alaska cruise, which arrived in Vancouver on my birthday. So she said, hey, David, why don't we go ahead and add that cruise, just like you had 2 cruises from Florida to South America and then around the Horn, stopping in Antarctica and ending up in Chile. So we actually added that such that it was a 28-day cruise to Hawaii and the South Pacific, returning to Los Angeles in the morning. In the evening, we left Los Angeles heading to Alaska. So it ended up to be 40 days on the cruise ship.
Wow. Did that include Tahiti or Fiji, or what did it include?
Let's see. It included Tahiti. It included Bora Bora and Moorea. And in Moorea, one thing that we do research before we leave, and we knew that there was a stop along the way at these islands where you can swim with black-tipped sharks and stingrays. And so the very last South Pacific island we stopped at was Moorea. So I said, well, that's where I want to do the black-tipped sharks and stingrays, because I want to enjoy all the rest of the cruise up to then, so that if I get bit in one of these islands, it needs to be the last island, because after that, it was 8 days cruising back to Los Angeles, and I was hoping I could recoup from my traumatic experience so that I could still enjoy riding my bicycle around Stanley Park in Vancouver, because we had the bikes on the ship the whole time.
Did you ride your bikes in Bora Bora?
We did ride our bikes some, not in Bora Bora, because that was when we were doing the black-tipped sharks and stingrays, and that was pretty much consuming the day. But we did ride our bikes in some of the other areas.
So Mira,